Okay, this is Disney's Legend of Sleepy Hollow, made in 1949, narrated by Beatnik era Bing Crosby. It was originally written in 1819 by Washington Irving. I remember I first seen this when I was a kid. My grandpa was visiting from Mexico, and we went to Price Club, which was like Costco and Sam's Club, but it was the first big warehouse store in the 90s. I remember my grandpa bought me this VHS and a Batman, the animated series pop up book. I watch this video all the time, as my birthday month is October, and I've always been a fan of the macabre and scary and horror. I have a tradition I keep where I watch The Legend of Sleepy Hollow every Halloween season, and have kept it since I was a kid. The Oddness of Ichabod as a kid was it was rather unnerving, but I didn't know what it was about him that made me feel uneasy. Him being the main character, I would always root for him, but as an adult, you understand Ichabod is quite a despicable person, and I end up rooting for Brom Bones. This was written well before the 40s, in 1819. So this may have been like the original Texas Chainsaw, the original Cannibal Holocaust, the original Blair Witch, where it mixes whether or not the story is real or fake, which gives it another level of horror. It's pretty incredible also that Bing Crosby does all the voices, except for the female voices, and all the musical singing parts in the short film. The music is really good in this also. From the Katrina song to the Sleepy Hollow song towards the end, and even the introduction, they're all bangers. See, even Bing Crosby says there was no real malice in Brom Bones. His mischief was all in good fun. Normal dude, working class dude, the type of alpha in this town. This goes to the reality of parallel characters who are met through a force unknown to duke it out in the universe. You see this play out all the time. Usually one meets their demise, sometimes both, but in this one you are left to wonder. There was an air of mystery and gauntly seduction that Ichabod possessed, that even nature seemed to be taken back, shown by the animals being afraid of his aura. He fears not having control or being a determining factor of his own fate and his own reality so much that he cannot help but to expose his weaknesses to everyone by showing he is superstitious and afraid of the supernatural. Ichabod makes sure he is known when people are wondering about him. He enjoys the attention, even if he in return does not offer any reciprocal energy or attention back, even ignoring who is the leader of the town, Brom Bones. Right away he notices a young damsel and hustles her, coming up on a pie without her noticing, foreshadowing his true intentions and agenda towards women. Ichabod is self-serving and a hustler, which is why he most likely has to hop from town to town, as many sociopaths end up having to do. Once they are exposed of their true nature, then people understand who they really are. Ichabod takes advantage of the naivety of school children, scoping out which child may or may not come from an affluent family, and who he can take advantage of and beat if they have nothing to offer to Ichabod. Quite the reprehensible character. The mentality of Ichabod is Machiavellian, one where he'll take ridicule if the ends justify the means, or if he has something to gain, he'll play the game. Ichabod most likely is repulsed by this older heavy-set woman, but he plays the game to get free food and possibly some living quarters. This takes place in the late 1700s, early 1800s, so women alone with children is most likely a widow, and he's preying upon her grief and sorrow by offering false hope. He gets around town and is the ladies' man, so he most likely smashed that lady with her kids in the house and probably never wrote to her again. The child in his classroom probably told the other kids that he was his dad now, and Ichabod denied it in front of the other kids and used dark sarcasm to humiliate him. The little fat kid. Again, spiritually, what he is projecting is ghastly vocals by these women, that he is conducting something haunting. The women screeching like this is symbolic for what is going on in the bedroom. That he is conducting something haunting as we see his fear continue to be an unseen force or character in the film as they climax.
It was inevitable that such a man as Ichabod would become an object of ridicule to Brom Bones and his gang.
He'll take the ridicule if the ends justify the means.
Indeed, the schoolmaster possessed a remarkable equanimity which remained quite undisturbed.
Now, Katrina seems to be the same character played by Cinderella, or maybe her sister or something. She looks very similar, and you would think that by her beauty alone would be the reason Ichabod has fallen head over heels for her. But it seems that he already knows of her background, and though he does lust for her sexually, financially is what he really desires. They do a really good job portraying falling head over heels over a beautiful woman through this song. Now all these beta simps that have no chance in the world with Katrina come in and basically will give anything in the world for a chance to smell her farts, and she knows this. And that dries her pussy up more than the Sahara. But of course she will utilize these orbiters to do her bidding. These guys will wait forever for the day she is heartbroken and vulnerable, for that moment, for the possibility of a hookup, which will never happen. It may happen, but it may happen after she becomes a widow in her 40s, out of her prime, out of shape, and when one of those guys is raising in value, she'll be down for them. But until then, in their dreams, anything those guys will do will ever be good enough for Katrina. And look at how happy they are, smiling, breaking their backs, setting up her picnic that she no doubt will have with another man. That little fat chick is the equivalent to those beta men to Ichabod. She has done everything in her power to win him over through food and probably sex. By the way, Ichabod is probably packing heat, and that's why he has some big ass shovels for feet.
Now there was no doubt the fair Katrina was the richest prize in the countryside.
Ichabod dresses well, but has holes in his socks and is always looking for opportunities and handouts. And being a school teacher, he probably doesn't make the greatest amount of money. And dreaming of Katrina and what she would do to his ego and financial freedom is his ultimate fantasy.
Boy, what a setup. There's gold in them acres and that ain't hay.
The scenes of his imagination with Katrina falling in love with her are 3 scenes. But there's 4 scenes of gold, cash, property, and inheritance.
Treasure. That barn's a gold mine.
Ichabod's true motives are known here.
Dear Katrina, Papa's only child. Papa. Well, the old goat can't take it with him, and when he cuts out,
He even rocks a grill.
I cut in. Sweet Katrina, poor little rich girl. But don't worry, Katie. Ichabod will protect you. Ah, yes, Katrina, you've won me. I surrender. And yet when you met that little coquette Katrina, you lost.
Again, we have the simps orbiting Katrina, hoping for a chance to eat the corn out of her you-know-what.
To say, every portal to Katrina's heart was jealously guarded by a host of rustic admirers.
Bing even calls them simple country bumpkins,
over these simple country bumpkins,
who genetically will be flushed out of the evolutionary success in the first sight of dominant masculinity. The poor little guy, too naive to understand he's in over his head, finally gets the hint and flees. She was both turned on and taken back by Brom Bones, his boldness. Brom has to prove himself to an extent against the psychologically dominant, to the opposite extreme male Icabod. In the animal world, they would fight it out, and Brom, no doubt, would take what he wants. But in a civilized society, Icabod is, for the most part, in an even playing field. More so skewed towards his side, being an educated man, to where a man like Brom Bones has probably been working since he was 12 years old with minimal education but much street smarts. Brom has to rely on brute force to have a chance in this fight against Ichabod, and at the same time, Ichabod is not used to being outdone by another man. It is that element of force and brutality Ichabod underestimates as well, as he views Brom as a country bumpkin also. Katrina lives for this type of male competition in her behalf, giving Ichabod hope and enough strength to continue to fight for her. Brom knows he can't just fight Ichabod in front of Katrina, and Ichabod knows this also, and takes advantage by doubling down and forcing Brom to carry the goods while he reaps the benefits and walks her. Ichabod would play victim if forced to fight, and would look cowardly if confronted to fight and backs down in front of her, so he has to play this card. It shows a form of dominance that intrigues Katrina.
Like to joke as well as the next, but enough was too much.
And even Brom Bones, being spiritually intimidated, may be a little insecure in Ichabod's introduction. Brom now begins to gain real resentment towards Ichabod, which Ichabod thrives in because he knows he has the upper hand at this point.
Time to carry the issue to open warfare. Why, he'd double that schoolmaster up and lay him on a shelf in his own schoolhouse. But this, it seemed, was easier said than done.
This is where Ichabod reaches flow state, where every bullet that was meant for him misses, and all the luck is on his side, to where his superstitious self even finds a horseshoe that either deliberately or unintentionally, is used as a weapon against his rival, with the accuracy seen in the archetype of David and Goliath. In that parallel reality of yin and yang, light and dark, good and evil, there is a balance, and Ichabod is a force to be reckoned with as well, and is proficient in the art of combat against a notable opponent. See, she knows what she's doing, and invites both men to basically duke it out on her behalf. And at the showdown at high noon, she will decide who she wants and whether or not she wants any of them to begin with. But coming from it being a small town before social media, most likely she will exhaust her options for the most high value male in this particular society. His room is messy, his mirror is broken, he's disheveled when alone, but is able to put forth the articulate and romantic ladies' man persona that is Ichabod Crane.
To him, this could mean but one thing. Ah, Icky, you sly old dog, you. What is this strange power you have over women? Well, tonight's the night, boy. Just turn on the old charm, and the fair Katrina is yours for the asking. Boom, 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 boom. So gaily bedecked, nobly mounted upon a horse he had borrowed for the occasion, Ichabod issued forth like a knight-errant of old to keep a tryst with his lady fair.
Katrina's Halloween party is the showcase of high society living. There is food, live music, youthful dancing, and Ichabod, as the oddball, will do his best to steal the show and act like he belongs, and like he is worthy of Katrina's father's throne. Ichabod, still fluid and graceful in the arts and dance, continues his state of flow in securing his position as Katrina's man, while the boisterous and heavy-footed Brom Bones lacks that type of grace. But again, one cannot underestimate sheer brutality and force and what a man will do in the name of a woman. Brom Bones, uncomfortable sitting alone, feeling like a loser, looks around to see if anyone needs a dance and sees the little chubby chick sitting by herself. Ecstatic to be noticed by a man of his stature, he is disgusted by the sheer sight of her, which saddens her, but he sees an opportunity to use her eagerness and switch that spirit to Ichabod and foresee his way back with Katrina. Bones is unable to keep up with Ichabod's pure wit and intelligence. This is why he keeps failing when battling it out with him. He is playing his game and stumbles upon his own demise. watching from afar the success that Ichabod achieves with
There was no
ease.
doubt that Ichabod was the man of the hour. Brom knew that he must concede his rival still another victory. And yet there was
As
little
the witching
chance
hour
this time
occurs, Brom Bones finds a chink in Ichabod's armor,
Button Tassel always called
and to
upon
any
scarce
warrior
fellow
spirit,
ghosts
a
to
small
clear the
opening is all you need.
Brom knew there was no more firm and potent believer in spooks and goblins than Ichabod Crane.
This is where Brom Bones plants the seed to kill Ichabod Crane.
Just gather round and I'll elucidate what goes on outside when it gets late.
Again, we're going back to Bones' playing field.
They get together for
Force
their nightly
and
jamboree.
brutality.
There's things
That is
with
his
horror and
nature.
sorcery. Some with
The man who proclaims that there are some who don't wear their skin
Some don't even wear their skin.
always seemed to be a clip from some other movie to me as a kid. But I feel now, as it seems almost out of place, that he represents evil or that demonic presence that will no doubt possess the situation that will bring both sides of these parallel characters to its final conclusion. Right here, Brom Bones portrays the Headless Horseman. They are both the same build, as we will see later. He subconsciously plants the seed in Ichabod's head to what to expect that night. Katrina laughs at Ichabod's cowardice, and just like that, all that work Ichabod did earlier to woo the crowd is gone out the window. Brom also carries the pumpkin and throws the pumpkin the way the Headless Horseman does, foreshadowing that. The dagger that Brom has also portrays the sword that the Headless Horseman carries. It's not unimaginable that Brom owns a bigger sword also, and that he owns another horse, as his other horse is built almost the same as the Headless Horseman's horse. So he probably feeds that horse the same nutrients as the Headless Horseman's horse.
You can't reason with a headless man. Now, if you doubt this tale is so, I met that spook just a year ago. Now, I didn't stop for a second look, but made for the bridge that spans the brook. But once you cross that bridge, my friend,
Brom knows that he has to cross that bridge also,
make for the bridge.
in order to prove that he's not a coward. It's a sort of challenge that he gives him.
Your head, look out, beware.
Brom knows which road he takes. By the way, he looks creepy when his eyes turn white and his skin is red, almost a representation of that demonic entity overtaking the situation. You could look at it two ways, as in the way of the supernatural, as the Headless Horseman truly does exist as a sort of entity. But if you're practical, you can view it as Brom Bones set him up. He was the one with the motives and the only one with something to gain if Ichabod disappears.
The nearer he approached the hollow, the more dizzy he became.
Ichabod whistles the song that was being sung during the highlight of his fantasy of Katrina to remind himself of his mission, but it seems almost futile that he must confront the destiny which he brought upon himself by issuing the challenge of Katrina to Bones. When he was in flow state earlier, the universe seemed to be working in his favor, and just the same, the forces of nature seemed to be devouring his reality, and everything around manifesting as melancholy and violence. He realizes he needs to survive this day and get home and surrender this fight. This is finally where Ichabod feels that he bit off more than he can chew, and paranoia begins to grow, and madness consumes his soul. As a child, these scenes were pretty creepy. They still hold up today. The artwork is amazing, and the synchronicities of the sound design to what's happening in the environment is superb. There was always something about Ichabod's laugh that made me feel uneasy. The reverb and echo delay that you can hear in the laughter makes him seem truly mad and menacing. Only to be confronted in this brief respite of comedic relief. Now, I have recently came to the conclusion that the Headless Horseman is Brom, who decided to use that force and brutality he is known for to rid his competition off the face of the earth. It would not be unheard of also that Brom owned that other horse and a cloak. Now, if you believe in true ghosts, then you can look at the Headless Horseman as an entity or spirit out for blood for anyone who chooses to cross that bridge at the witching hours on Halloween night. But if you are practical, this was really a man who wanted to murder or intimidate Ichabod. Who has more of a motive than Brom Bones? The Headless Horseman is of a strong build like Brom and is carrying a sword similar to the dagger Brom had earlier to cut Ichabod's hair.
Once you cross that bridge, my friends, the ghost is through. His power ends.
The ending scene always had this mysterious type of conspiracy theory, unsolved mystery thing going on, with his hat being found. I believe this was trying to imply that Ichabod was truly murdered or missing. But for being a children's cartoon, they couldn't outright say that, since it was already pretty dark, even to today's standards. I could only imagine how kids felt back then in the late 40s. The only beneficiary to Ichabod's death was Brom Bones in marrying Katrina, and to not have everybody wonder or ponder about a murder mystery, they ended with Ichabod's whereabouts being ambiguous. As a kid, I didn't quite understand the ending. I thought he actually lived, since they showed him with another fat chick with kids. But now as I watch as an adult, Ichabod was murdered by his arch nemesis, Brom Bones.
He's out looking for a head to swap, so don't try to figure out a plan. You can't reason with a headless man. Man, I'm getting out of here.